To complete our still life projects, we started by answering two basic questions. What are they and how do we make them? A still life drawing is a drawing of objects that do not move. This is a very popular example of a still life. And here is another example of a still life. So from those two, we can tell that still life drawings are made of objects that do not move. Choosing those objects for a still life, you have to consider a few things. Good objects for a still life would have texture. You can see that on the shoe. There's a few worn places and creases where it's been worn, and even a hole through the fabric that shows that it's been used. And there's a strawberry on the right showing some texture with the seeds on its surface. It also shows some color and a change from light to dark in that color. Another one to consider when choosing an object is to place objects together in correct proportion, which would mean that when you put them together, the sizes look realistic and correct. This is an example of wrong proportion because those two parts put together are not the right sizes. The arm is too big for the head, or the head is too small for the arm. So objects, when you're choosing them for a still life, should have some color. The shape should match when you put them together, should be in correct proportion, and should have some texture on the surface. In these examples, we see texture from the various kinds of fruit and the reflections on their surface, and how they're in correct proportion because when they're placed together, they look realistic in size. You can see similar things with the shoe still life drawing, how there's some texture with the folds, just like the example we saw earlier, and how they're both the same size when placed side by side. For your own still life drawing, you first worked on a value worksheet to create various different shadows and to understand how they slowly change from one to the other. Then you chose 3 to 6 objects, drew them in correct proportion, and added color and value to those. The idea with the color and value in your still life drawing was that you started by practicing creating value, like this example here with the sphere in black and white, just with pencil. And then you took that same idea of creating a range of shadows from light to dark and used color pencil, or maybe 2 different colors of color pencil, to do the same thing with your objects, to give them a more three-dimensional round appearance. The point of a still life is to combine different objects that do not move, that look a little realistic and ordinary, and make them more interesting by practicing using correct proportion, adding color and value.